I never thought my marriage would end because of a dog. But that morning, standing barefoot in the kitchen, I watched my husband of 10 years zip up his suitcase without a second glance. "I'm taking Zeus. You get the kid," he said, like we were dividing furniture. Zeus wasn't just a dog, he was family. We adopted him before our son Eli was born. He slept at the foot of our bed, licked Eli's face after every tantrum, and fetched socks like it was his full-time job. And just like that, Bryce claimed him as if I never mattered. What hurt more wasn't just losing Zeus, it was how cold Bryce had become. But worse was the way his mother, Joan, smirked from the doorway and muttered, "At least the dog's trained." They laughed. Like I was the joke. Like being left with our child was a burden instead of the greatest gift. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I walked past them, picked up Eli's drawing of our family, and went to find him in the next room. He was 9, coloring on the carpet, unaware that everything was falling apart behind him. And in that moment, I made a promise. He would never feel like he was the reason things broke. Let Bryce take the dog. I had the child. I had the heart of our home. And that was worth everything. At first, it was little things. Bryce would forget to pick me up from work, then laugh like it was no big deal. He said I was too sensitive, too emotional, always overreacting. When Eli cried after being yelled at, Bryce blamed me, said I was making him soft. When I asked for help, he rolled his eyes and called me nagging. It wasn't loud or violent. It was quiet, constant erosion. Joan, his mother, only made it worse. She'd say things like, "You're lucky he puts up with your moods," or "Boys need tough love." I started questioning myself, was I really too emotional? Was I failing as a mother? I stopped laughing, stopped speaking up, started shrinking inside my own home. Gaslighting doesn't scream. It whispers, twists, denies. I became someone I barely recognized, walking on eggshells, always trying not to set him off. And every time I tried to stand up for myself, I was told I was imagining things. But Eli saw it. He saw how I froze when Bryce entered the room. How I smiled less, how I sighed more. My son noticed, even when I tried to hide it. And that's when I knew, this wasn't just hurting me. It was hurting him too. The breaking point wasn't a scream. It was a sentence. Bryce came home late, dropped his keys on the counter, and asked if Eli finished his spelling homework. I said yes. He barely looked at me before muttering, "Good. I don't want him ending up like you, barely scraping by." Then, like nothing happened, he walked away to check his emails. I stood there, frozen, heart pounding in my chest. That quiet insult cracked something inside me. That night, I waited for him to fall asleep. I tiptoed into the bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the cold tile floor. I didn't cry because I was sad, I cried because I was done. For years, I'd convinced myself to stay, for Eli, for the home we built, for the idea of love. But in that moment, I saw it clearly. Love shouldn't make you feel small. I stared at my reflection, pale and tired, and whispered, "No more." It took 3 more weeks. 3 weeks of pretending. Then one morning, he zipped up his suitcase, took Zeus, and said, "You get the kid." He thought he was leaving me with the burden. He didn't know he was leaving me with everything that mattered. After Bryce left, the house felt hollow, like the echo of something that used to be alive. Eli didn't ask many questions. He just kept drawing, superheroes, animals, and sometimes our dog Zeus with a cape. He missed Zeus terribly, but he never cried. Instead, he started sleeping in my bed again, quietly curling up beside me like he did when he was small. I made him homemade lunches with little notes, read him extra bedtime stories, and turned his room into a little sanctuary with glowing star lights across the ceiling. I wanted him to feel safe, even if the world outside was falling apart. He was only 9, but already carrying so much. I saw it in the way he stared at his cereal without eating, how he stopped asking questions about the world. It broke me. But I made a silent vow. He would never think this was his fault. He would never carry the weight of Bryce's absence like it was something he caused. I didn't just want to protect him, I needed to. Because Eli wasn't just my son, he was my reason. My anchor. My proof that even in chaos, love could still be enough to hold us together. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Beige walls, stiff chairs, and a silence so heavy it felt like it could shatter. Eli sat beside me, legs too short to touch the ground, clutching his notebook like it was armor. When the judge called our case, my heart thudded in my chest. Bryce's lawyer painted a perfect picture: dedicated father, stable home, shared custody. I wanted to scream. Then it was our turn. Denise, calm and steady, asked the judge to hear from Eli. The room paused. Are you sure? The judge asked gently. Eli nodded. He stood, walked to the front, and opened his notebook with trembling hands. My dad sent me these messages, he said quietly. He didn't mean to, but I saw them. He read the words aloud, cruel, cold sentences no child should ever hear. Can't wait to be done with that brat. The room went silent. Then Eli looked up, voice stronger now. I'm not a brat. I'm not useless. I just want to feel safe. That was it. That was all it took. The truth, spoken by a child, louder than any lawyer ever could. In that moment, everything changed. After the court granted me full custody, everything felt quiet. Not the kind of silence that hurts, but the kind that heals. Bryce disappeared from our lives without a fight. No calls, no visits, not even a goodbye. For the first time in years, there was peace. Eli began to come back to life. He laughed more, slept through the night, and filled sketchbooks with comic heroes and bright colors. He even drew me as a superhero, Truth Mom, he called her. Saving the day with honesty and waffles. I hung it on the fridge like a masterpiece. Our tiny apartment felt warmer. I took on new clients, joined a book club, and started saving for piano lessons. Little things. Healing things. We didn't talk about Bryce much. Eli didn't ask. But sometimes, he'd whisper, I'm glad I told the truth. And every time, I'd say, me too. I don't hate Bryce. I don't have room for that anymore. What I have is my son, whole, safe, brave. He knows love doesn't come with fear, and that his voice matters. The cycle ended with us. And in that silence he left behind, we built something stronger. We built home. If you're watching this and you're in the middle of your own storm, maybe a custody battle, a silent heartbreak, or feeling like your voice doesn't matter, I want you to hear me, you are not powerless. For so long, I felt small, erased, like I was constantly proving my worth to people who only wanted control. But the moment I chose truth over silence, everything began to change. Not overnight, not without pain, but slowly, with each step, each boundary, each act of courage. Your story matters. Even if no one's listening yet. Your pain is real, even if others dismiss it. And your strength? It's there, in every quiet decision you make to protect yourself or your child. Eli taught me that even the smallest voice can shift the room. You don't have to scream to be heard. You just have to speak. From your heart. So if you're tired, scared, or wondering if it's worth it, let this be your sign, you are not alone. And one day, like us, you'll look back and realize, you didn't just survive. You reclaimed your life. Thank you for staying with me through this story. It wasn't easy to tell, but I believe stories like this matter, not because they're dramatic, but because they're real. Because somewhere out there, someone is sitting in the dark, thinking they're the only one. And they're not. If this story touched you, even a little, please consider giving it a like. It helps more people find it. Especially those who might need to hear that they're not alone. Maybe you've been through a custody battle. Maybe you were the child caught in the middle. Or maybe you just believe that kindness and truth are worth fighting for. Whatever brought you here, your voice matters too. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share your story, your strength, or even just a message for Eli. He sometimes reads them with me, and your words remind him that he was brave, and that bravery matters. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I share stories like this, not just about pain, but about healing. About the quiet power of choosing love, truth, and courage. Even when it's hard. Take care of yourself. And take care of those who still believe in the light, even after walking through the dark.